So it seems yesterday's rumor video about Total War, that was just the tester, because from the back of that video, I've heard actually multiple big rumors about that apparent game. Some stuff I want to clear up in today's video about some things that I mentioned the other day, because again, I got a bunch of more information sent to me, and again, it's looking like that this game is going to be big, massive and entertaining for the community. So let's jump in, let's look at it, let's talk about everything, and let's get waffling. Again, just as I mentioned in the video the other day, please take everything that I'm about to say as a rumor and not fact. On this channel, we get a bunch of rumors sent and we always talk about them. All rumors are lies until Games Workshop, until the company that we're talking about, put out something official. So take them for what they are, rumors and not facts. So let's start with the information that we got the other day. We made a video about the other day, and that all is about a playtester who apparently playtested the game, and one of his feedback was it felt like Helldivers 2. And a lot of people, myself included, was like, what, does that mean it's like gameplay like Helldivers 2? It's not like a Total War type of RTS game? There was a lot of confusion off that. Now, just to clear that up, apparently the Helldivers 2 vibe that I mentioned in yesterday's video is all about the galaxy map. And that information was given to me by another individual from the back end of that video who wanted to clear some of the stuff up that I mentioned. And they stated that the comparison to the Helldivers stuff is more in line with the galaxy map dynamic in Helldivers 2, where players can influence the progress of campaigns / faction progress, and where people like in Helldivers 2 can steer the galaxy map through scripted events. Now, I asked this individual, was he a playtester and stuff like that? And they said they haven't played it themselves, but what they stated to me is that many of the details about this game sound absolutely insane, and it needs to be seen really to be believed with some of the features that they want to bring to this game. Apparently, aside from the Helldivers 2 galaxy map dynamic, there's been described like the game is going to be more or less like a company of heroes style combat with destructible cover, like trees being blown apart by bolters. Apparently, the Space Marines are very small but elite units, as you would expect. Orcs are the complete opposite, of course. Swarms of them conquering over everything. Astartes are going to be like a scalpel, horde-like from their battle barge, which I think means he's referencing to like they're not going to have like a base of operation. It's going to be like maybe like the orcs where you're just constantly roaming around and that's how you do it. Like there's no empire building. For example, like this chap mentions like the Imperial Guard, and we'll get onto some of the factions in a second because this chap is saying different factions to launch with, which I mentioned the other day, but we'll get onto that in just a second. Other questions that I answered, and he answered, he says, apparently, because I was asking about, like, what about DLC and stuff? Like, how's that going to work? And he says, well, your concerns about the Imperial Fist representation is legitimate, because that's what I was asking about. The suggestion is that they'll have a hard pivoting into a customizable angle. So basically, Army Painter plus, a chapter of your choice, a chapter master of your making, so a lot of kit bashing and stuff like that. He basically said, look at the custom Demon Prince faction in Total War 3 as an example, and that's what they're intending to do with stuff like Space Marine chapters, so you can go in there, build it, paint it all yourself, and represent what you want to represent on said battlefield. And on the subject of DLC, he did mention that CA is still fairly heavy on the DLC train, but the Helldivers 2 Battle-S Galaxy map with scripted events will tie into that. So basically, for example, in the run-up to a DLC for, let's say, Necrons, they can do a scripted event to get people hyped up for that, where you basically go into a certain sector, there's like kind of like Necron activities, scripted events and stuff like that, then that could lead then into said DLC for the Necrons, which again, it sounds fantastic is if this is what's going to be coming for the game, if this is what's going to be happening, scripted events, you know, player influence in the entire galaxy map. That's good for me because in yesterday's video, I was really concerned like it's going to force you to play with people, it's going to force you to play against people, and for the majority of people that play Total War games, they play it as a single player stuff. So what it sounds like to me is that your influence playing it in single player will influence the wider story that they want to set up in that said game. So if you're playing orcs and you're purging, crusading, you know, warring with orcs across the galaxy, then that influence is going to build up the orc influence bar in the galaxy map, all added up to other orcs playing around the galaxy, which then could lead up to some story narratives and other things like that set up in the game, which I think sounds really cool. Fantastic if that is what it's intended to be. Of course, one of the things he does mention this is that this was playtesting from ages ago, so take everything that I'm hearing, you know, with copious amounts of salt. One of the other things that they did mention, and what I mentioned the other day, because I heard that the first playtest factions were Chaos Space Marines, Orcs, Eldar, and Wait, did I say that? Space Marines, Orcs, Chaos Space Marines, and Eldar. That's what those 4 factions, but apparently that's not the case. This said individual saying the playtest that apparently they heard about, it was Space Marines, Eldar, Orcs, and Imperial Guard. There was no mention of Chaos at all, but he did say things may have changed. What I'll add to that, if they don't launch the game giving you an option to play Chaos, then that is one of the biggest head scratchers I can think of, because I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, but the main storyline in Warhammer 40,000 is the Imperium versus Chaos. Everyone else is just there for our entertainment. That's what it is. So I personally believe they have to launch with Chaos. Chaos Space Marines, Chaos Demons, whatever it is, you have to have a Chaos faction in there to launch with. There's a lot of things to digest from that, a lot of cool sounding things to digest from that. Again, I'm glad that this whole Helldivers 2 thing basically got cleared up. Sorry for my misinformation. The way it was explained to me was more like it was gameplay rather than, you know, the map itself, but I'm glad it's hopefully looking like the map stuff. If it does turn out to be the map stuff where you influence stuff, I like that. I would love to get your thoughts and feedback on that. Do you like that, where it could lead up to like player events and stuff and, you know, new factions and all that kind of like story elements to it? I do think that sounds absolutely fantastic. In terms of gameplay, you know, a little bit of mentions in there, destructible terrain, which you would think would be an option in the game as well, because this is 40k. You're absolutely destroying buildings. You're taking planets apart. The weapons, the armaments that these faction have are just nightmarish. That's what this whole setting is. It's eternal war, eternal damnation. It's absolutely scary. All I know, as I keep saying, is that towards the end of this year, we're gonna get that preview. It's gonna happen around early December. They're doing their big Total War preview show. Maybe Total War 3 is gonna be previewed on that. Maybe, you know, more games are gonna be previewed on that. But towards the end of this year, fingers crossed, we'll have all the information that we want. I'm excited for it. I'm sure the game is going to be absolutely massive. It's going to probably blow 40k into the limelight, even more potentially than Space Marine 2 did. And that was an absolute rocket to get Space Marines and 40k out to like the people who didn't know about the genre. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to see what happens, to see what comes to this game now. And hopefully it's going to be a fantastic experience that we can all jump on, we can all play, and we can all just enjoy ourselves with. Because at the end of the day, that's what games are, right? We're there to just lose ourselves in enjoyment and just have some fun. So fingers crossed they bring that to us. Anyway, Chaprunios, thank you for coming. Thank you for watching, as always. If you got any thoughts, feedback, anything like that, post it down below. I'm with a nice little chin wag down there, as we always do. See you now. Have a great day. Enjoy yourselves, and bye-bye.